Assyrian Iranian king emerges when Israelites return. Assyrian Iranian king emerges when Israelites return. Our meditation scriptures are Ezra chapter 6, verse 21 through 22, and chapter 7, verses 1, 6, and 7, which state, "And the children of Israel, which will come out of captivity, and all such as had separated themselves unto them from the filthiness of the heathen of the land, to see Yahweh Elohim of Israel, did eat, and kept the feast of unleavened bread 7 days with joy. For Yahweh had made them joyful, and turned the heart of the king of Assyria unto them, to strengthen their hands in the work of the house of Elohim, the Elohim of Israel. Now, after these things, in the reign of Artaxerxes, king of Persia, Ezra, the son of Sariah, the son of Azariah, the son of Hilkiah. This Ezra went up from Babylon, and he was a ready scribe in the Torah of Moshe, which Yah, Elohim of Israel, had given him. And the king granted him all his requests according to the hand of Yah, his Elohim, upon him. And there went up some of the children of Israel, and of the priests, and the Levites, and the singers, and the porters, and the Nethinims, unto Jerusalem in the 7th year of Artaxerxes the king. Hallelujah. Many of us have recently heard of the death of the Iranian President Raisi and the Foreign Secretary of State of Iran, as well as other government officials of Iran, all of which died in a tragic helicopter crash a couple of days ago, this past Sunday, May 19, 2024. Though the news is reporting that a vice president is now the interim president of Iran, it is yet unclear as of now as to who will be the full-term president to replace President Raisi. The successor to Raisi is yet to be chosen, and we are on standby as to what this all means prophetically in terms of the entry of the second exodus of Israelites back to our homeland of Israel. In Ezra chapter 6, verse 22, a Persian Iranian king of the 5th century named Darius helped newly returned Israelites from Babylonian captivity to be reestablished in the land of Israel. And instead of Darius being called the king of Persia, which is the ancient name of Iran, he is called the king of Assyria, as stated again in the book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 21 through 22, which state, "And the children of Israel, which were come again out of captivity, and all such as had separated themselves unto them from the filthiness of the heathen of the land, to seek Yahweh Elohim of Israel, did eat, and kept the feast of unleavened bread 7 days with joy. For Yahweh had made them joyful, and turned the heart of the king of Assyria unto them, to strengthen their hands in the work of the house of Elohim, the Elohim of Israel." It is interesting that the place of the helicopter crash President Raisi was in the area of Verzagan, which is in the northwestern area of Iran that was once a part of the ancient Assyrian Empire. And this may account for why the king of Persia in Ezra's time in the 5th century BC is also called the king of Assyria, as stated in Ezra chapter 6, verse 22. Now, the coming Antichrist, the beast, is also called the Assyrian in Micah 5:6. And he will be a ruler out of the land of Nimrod, as stated in Micah chapter 5, verse 6. And they shall waste the land of Assyria with the sword, and the land of Nimrod in the entrances thereof. Thus shall he deliver us from the Assyrian when he cometh into our land, and when he treadeth within our borders. Also, as stated in Daniel 11:41 concerning the Assyrian Antichrist, it says, quote, he will also invade the beautiful land, and many countries will fall. Now, the beautiful land is a reference to our land, the land of Israel. But also in Daniel 11:44, it states that when the Antichrist Assyrian invades our land of Israel, he will also hurry to invade Iran or Persia and other countries to the northeast of Israel, as stated in verse 44 of Daniel 11. But news from the east and the north will alarm him, and he will go out with great fury to destroy many and to devote them to destruction. Daniel chapter 11, verse 44. So, as we see the crisis in Iran regarding President Raisi's death, it is possible that we are also seeing a series of events leading up to the coming Antichrist Assyrian conquest and rulership of Iran. The Assyrian Antichrist is also called the little horn in Daniel 8, who emerges from the ancient Assyrian region of the Seleucid Greek kingdom, which encompassed Syria, Iraq, and Iran during the time of the 4th century BC. As stated, of this coming beast conqueror of Iran, the Assyrian, is stated in Daniel 8:23 that this Assyrian Antichrist will come to power in the latter days, as stated in Daniel chapter 8, verse 23, 24, and 25. It states, and in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy also, he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. Notice this powerful beast ruler is said to emerge in the latter days, and he will conquer Iran, as stated in verses 7 and verse 21 of Daniel 8, which state, and I saw him come close unto the ram. He was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram and broke his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him. And there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Verse 20 and 21, the ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. And the rough goat is the king of Greece, or of Yawan in Hebrew. Now, the king of Yawan, which is translated as Greece in Daniel 8:21, is actually referring to the most powerful nation out of Japhet's children, which is America. America's military is already positioned to attack Iran from the regions of the old Assyrian borders in Syria and Iraq, where there are U.S. military bases located in eastern Syria and northwestern Iraq. That's the region of ancient Assyria. All right, so those powers, those forces of America in those places of the old Assyrian Empire region of the old Seleucid power, they were the ones who on this past April the 14th demonstrated their might from those bases in the old Assyrian region against the Iranian missiles that they intercepted that were heading to Israel on April the 14th. So the Assyrian beast, the Antichrist, must appear in the time of the second Exodus. And return to our homeland of Israel in these latter days. So, because according to the, if you, whoever, somebody, if you could just mute your mic, I appreciate it.
Explosive. Sweating. Yeah. Yeah. It's too. It was. Nice. You see that? Yeah.
Right. Furthermore, according to verse 25 of Daniel 8, it states of this Assyrian Antichrist that he shall stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. Now, the prince of princes is referring to Yeshua, the prince of princes. That's one of his titles. This is a ruler that will fight Yeshua in his second coming. This is how close we are in these times. Furthermore, according to Joel 3, the judgment and defeat of the forces of the Antichrist happens at the time of the return of the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem in the latter days, as stated in Joel chapter 3, verses 1 and 2, which state, for behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and will bring them into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. Notice in Joel chapter 3, verse 1, preceding the war of Armageddon, that Yah will gather, Shalom. So preceding the time of the war of Armageddon, when Yah gathers Judah's captivity back to the land of Israel, these prophecies will make sense around the land of Israel. They cannot make sense around sub-Saharan Africa. And I'm gonna explain, and I'm not beating up on people who believe sub-Saharan Africa is Israel. I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to beat up on nobody. I love people that do believe that and care about them and respect them. So I'm not here to beat up on people that want to make sub-Saharan Africa to be Israel. But when you read these scriptures, you have to know better that these prophecies like these, there's not the capability for those to be fulfilled around sub-Saharan Africa. And I'm going to show you why. Notice it says in Daniel 11:42-43 that the beast will attack Ethiopia or Cush, which is what sub-Saharan Africa was called by our ancient Israelite ancestors, as well as other African areas such as Egypt and Libya, which are also cited as stated. He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps. But the valley of Jehoshaphat, in Joel chapter 3, verse 2, is referring to the war of Armageddon in the valley of Megiddo, which is in northern Israel, according to Revelation 16, verses 12 through 16, which states, and the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. And I saw three unclean spirits, like frogs, come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. And they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of El Shaddai. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue, Har Mageddon, the mountains of Megiddo. Notice in verse 12 of chapter 16 of Revelation that the river Euphrates will be dried up in order that the kings of the east, like Iran and others, like China and others, will come from the east to the valley of Megiddo, which is in northern Israel, to fight against our soon coming king, Messiah Yeshua, who will appear there at Megiddo to defeat the Assyrian beast conqueror of Iran. Iran is east of the Euphrates River, and it will be mobilized by the Assyrian Antichrist to fight against our Messiah Yeshua. Yes, Iran will be one of the nations gathered to fight against Yeshua. We must keep that in mind. Iran will be brought there by demonic influences, as well as the other nations, that the devil, the Assyrian Antichrist beast, and his false prophet will entice the nations into a foolhardy war against our soon coming conquering king of the tribe of Judah. This is where all of this is leading up to. In conclusion, as we tie all of these various scriptures together, these following points become clear. The coming Assyrian Antichrist will conquer Iran and rule it. I don't know whether the current crisis they're having with the president Raisi's death has anything to do with that, but as some of us like using the phrase, it bears watching. It bears watching. The Assyrian Antichrist beast will have the backing of the Western powers of the United States, which is called Yawan in Daniel 8:21. Now, that means this guy will be looked upon as a hero here in the West, even though he's somebody from the East. We'll look at that a little more. It says that in Daniel 8:21, this little horn comes out of the midst of Yawan. Now, let's look at that word Yawan. I know in the KJV it's translated as Greece, but the Hebrew word is Yawan. And when you go to Genesis chapter 10, verse 4, it says Japheth, the son of Noah, had a son called Yawan or Javan, and Javan had 4 sons. And the sons of Javan were Elisha and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. All right, this is Genesis chapter 10, verse 4. Dodanim was the father of the Greeks. Kittim was the father of the Romans and the Italians. Tarshish was the father of the Spaniards. But Elisha, the oldest son of Yawan, in Genesis 10:4, Elisha, the son of Yawan, according to the book of Jasher, is the father of the British people, as stated in Jasher 90:29, which states, and during his reign, he brought forth an army and he went and fought against the inhabitants of Britannia and Carnania, the children of Elisha, son of Javan, and he prevailed over them and made them tributary. So the British are the colonial founders of what will become the United States, and they're described in the book of Jasher as being the children of Elisha, one of Javan's sons mentioned in Genesis 10:4. The Assyrian beast, the Antichrist, is described in Genesis 10. And he is described as the founder of the 2 great ancient city kingdoms, Babylon and Nineveh. And Nineveh was the capital of Assyria. And this is recorded in Genesis 10, verse 8 through 12, which states, and Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before Yah. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before Yah. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel and Iraq and Akkad and Calneh in the land of Sumer or Shinar. Whenever you see the word Shinar in the scriptures, historically it's called Sumer, S-U-M-E-R, Sumer. Sumer and Shinar in southern Mesopotamia. Now it says, out of that land, out of what land? The land of Sumer, which is in southern Mesopotamia. Out of that land went forth Ashur. Now, the Assyrian is called Ashur in Hebrew. That's what the Hebrew word is for. The Assyrian is Ashur. And it's clear, based on what we do know, that this reference of Ashur is referring to Nimrod, the son of Cush. That after he led the rebellion to build the Tower of Babel, and the languages were changed, he moved on up north in northern Mesopotamia and established the city of Nineveh, which was the capital of the Assyrian Empire. And even to this day, in the region where Nineveh is located, which is in northern Iraq, around the town of Mosul, that was an area that was the capital of ISIS a few years ago, Mosul. there outside the ruins of ancient Nineveh is the ruins of a place called Nimrod. It's there. Nimrod. It's there. He was the builder and architect of Nineveh. So it says, verse 11, chapter 10 of Genesis, out of that land went forth Ashur, which is Nimrod, and builded Nineveh, the city Rehoboth, and Calah. Now, Nimrod had many names. One of his names was Sargon. So historically, you'll hear that name mentioned in reference to him. All right. And he ruled both Nineveh and Babylon. He ruled both. And then we read in verse 12, and also Rezin between Nineveh and Calah. The same as a great city. So remember that Asher or Ashur in verse 11 is the Hebrew name for the Assyrian. And the Assyrian here is Nimrod. Revelation 17:8 describes how Nimrod the Assyrian will rise from the bottomless pit. As stated, the beast that thou sawest was and is not. That means this is a man that once lived, and he's no more among us. He was killed with a sword to his head. According to the book of Jasher, Esau took a sword and chopped his head off while they were in a hunting expedition. Because, see, Esau was also a hunter too. So, as stated here in Revelation 17:8, the beast that thou sawest was and is not. That is, this is a man that once lived. He is not. He's dead. But he says in verse 8 of Revelation 17 that he shall ascend out of Tahom. The Hebrew word for bottomless pit is Tahom. He shall ascend out of Tahom and go into perdition, that is destruction. Because he will meet his judgment in the lake of fire eventually. Total and complete destruction. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, that is, he once lived in ancient times, and is not. He went to the bottomless pit, he died, and yet is. He will come up out of the bottomless pit. Now, a lot of people wonder, how can a man come out of the bottomless pit and appear anywhere like a man? And I don't have time to go into details of the metaphysical issues there, but there is a precedence of understanding that the doctrine of the appearance of a person that can look like they are flesh and blood people, but yet they can be more like a phantasm. In fact, there were a group of people called Gnostics who taught this about Yeshua. Some Gnostics who were heretics taught that Yeshua didn't really have real physical dimensions about himself or body, but that he was appearing like he was in the flesh. And scriptures tell us in 1 John chapter 4 that anybody that's teaching that about Yeshua, that's the teaching of Antichrist. Go to 1 John chapter 4 for more reference on that. Why is that a teaching of Antichrist? Because really, that doctrine called docetism, which is a doctrine that the Messiah did not have a physical body like you and I, but he had a phantasm body different than us, but he could look like us. That doctrine denied that Yeshua came in the flesh, because the Gnostics felt that the flesh is evil. The only time you become righteous is when you are unrobed from the flesh. So they had it where Yeshua didn't really come in the flesh. And Yochanan told us, if anybody tells you that, that's the teaching of the spirit of Antichrist. Why? Because really, that description of a Messiah that's like a phantasm that can look like he's a physical person, but he's not. That doesn't fit Yeshua. That fits the Antichrist, the beast. He comes up out of the bottomless pit and he appears that way. I don't know how the mystery of iniquity continues to do all of that. Scriptures tell us all of that is involving the mystery of iniquity. But I do know for a fact, some of these technologies out here, like holograms and things of that sort, can look real. I can't begin to tell you when they made a hologram of Tupac and he did a concert after he had been dead. There's a hologram of him performing a concert. All right. So if we think about the disembodied spirit of Nimrod coming back, the doctrine of Antichrist teaches that he will have a body that looks normal like a human, but it's not. It's a different kind of body. And it's not a regular flesh and blood body like us. That's what the teaching of Antichrist and his nature is about. But this cannot be applied to Yeshua. Yeshua said, touch me. I got flesh. You know, and Yakanan always emphasized, we beheld him and we held him. And anybody teaches you that he did not come in the flesh, that is not the teaching that we gave you. That is the teaching of Antichrist. So the verse in Revelation 17:8, this verse means that the ancient builder of the Tower of Babel, Nimrod, the man that hated Yah so much that according to Josephus, he shot arrows. That is, Nimrod shot arrows from atop the Tower of Babel into the sky against Yah. This entity, this man, Nimrod, called Ashur, will come back as the Assyrian Antichrist to lead the world, as the beast from the bottomless pit. Finally, Yakanan in Revelation says, this wicked one will be in control of all the earth for 3.5 years, as stated in Revelation 13, verses 4, 5, 6, and 7, which state, and they worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him. And that was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months, 3.5 years. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against Elohim, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. But oh, hallelujah, 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 7 through 12 states that our master Yeshua will triumph over this coming wicked beast ruler of Iran, who will persecute Yeshua's bride, the Nazari Israelite people. 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 7 through 12 state, and to you who are troubled, rest with us when the master Yeshua shall be revealed from heaven with his mighty angels in flaming fire, taking vengeance on them that know not Yah, and that obey not the good news of our master Yeshua HaMashiach, who will be punished with everlasting destruction from the presence of Yah and from the glory of his power. And he shall come to be glorified in his saints and to be admired in all them that believe, because our testimony among you was believed in that day. Hallelujah. May Yah the blessing to the reading and the hearing of his word.